From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another Conversation with Trent and Friends, featuring the lovely Coach Dee. We got a good one here tonight. But first off, let's take care of some business real quick. I'd like to thank all the Instagram folks, all 23,700 you guys actually coming, and we finally got access to you guys. So thank you guys for always supporting, and Conversations back. I haven't talked to you guys in a minute over there, so since the incident, but we really appreciate all the support. 23,700 people, we really appreciate it on Instagram. So we're streaming live on Instagram, and of course on the B2G Unity TV network, and we're streaming live for YouTube as well. So good stuff. Tonight we're talking about, does crying make you beta or a real man? Does crying make you beta or a real man? During the Gumbo Talk Hour last weekend, our faithful viewer, faithful supporter, Slash, actually opened up that can of worms, and you guys know Coach Dee. She came in with a poke in the bear thing. So let's bring her in and see what she's talking about.
Hey there.
How's it going?
It's going well, thanks. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Say hi to the folks on Instagram. All 23,700 folks over there. Finally got clearance.
Oh, yes. I'm lagging, I believe. Xavier said hello to everybody. He checked the numbers out, so, my little mini finance bro.
Exactly. What up, Z? So. Good stuff, man. So, how you doing?
I'm good. I have a lag though, so I'm not sure what's going on. My camera's a little slow.
Now you're actually good. Everything's coming in over here.
Okay. Just on my end.
Good.
Yeah, so good. I did get some emails. They haven't even heard what I had wanted to say yet. They're already upset. Already mad.
They know how you get down. They know exactly how you get down. So does crying make you a beta or a real man? In today's climate, and actually, men, especially Black men in particular, being vulnerable and, showing your vulnerability card is a tough one, man, out here in these streets. Very tough one. And we're going to get down to the trauma of it all and talk about it, as we do here on the conversation all the time. Coach Dee brings out the trauma and all of it, and we talk about it. But, as for me, I'm very expressive. I can't relate to that as far as being vulnerable. Vulnerable actually is a strength, in my personal opinion. But for most guys, it's kind of tough, man, being ridiculed, being talked about if they're, they become soft or whatever. They talk about how soft they are, if they're vulnerable and show their feelings. So we're going to talk about it. What's your thoughts on the beta thing? Define beta for these guys who don't know.
You know what? I totally disbelieve in that whole alpha thing, because the guy who did the study on the alpha wolves debunked it himself.
Right.
And, people don't listen to him. And the only actual study done on alphas was on chickens, and it's females at the alpha. So this whole, I just put the beta alpha in there just for clickbait, because people get upset about it. People get mad. But here's the thing. Healed men have emotions, and healed women understand that they have emotions.
Absolutely. Before we dig in, let's say hi to the folks coming. I see them coming in now.
1 second. Miss Kathy, good evening, everyone. Well, thank you.
Hey, Kathy, what's going on with you? What'd she say?
Flash is here. Grand Rising Melanated people, greetings. The Bishop and the First Lady, Princess Coach Dee, and Mr. Epic. Yeah, don't ever
What else, Slash? So as I said in the opening, Flash opened up a can of worms where he talked about being expressive publicly and expressing himself and being emotional. So he opened up that can of worms, and of course, Coach Dee poked the bear on that one, and Yeah, a couple of things to say about it. This is her topic on this messy Sunday, as it always is.
And I'll go straight to the point, and people aren't going to like it. Men who are
Right.
secure in their masculinity are not afraid to be vulnerable. They're not afraid to show emotions.
Hmm. I
Right?
could agree with that. I could
If
agree
you're
with that.
healed and you're secure in who you are and you're confident in who you are, you don't have to put on this big I'm a alpha male. Like, because you lions don't tell people they're lions.
Right.
Okay? You don't have to tell people who you are. You just are who you are.
Right. Right.
Right?
Let's
And
talk about why some guys are reluctant to being open and being vulnerable.
it's trauma.
Why? I mean, because there's ridicule attached to that.
Mhm.
There's shame attached to that as
Yeah.
well. I've seen a ton of cases where guys have been vulnerable online, speaking their truth, and they get shamed
Yes.
completely.
There's a lot of trauma going around that people refuse to acknowledge. Right?
Right.
We taught children for generations to not that they weren't allowed to have a voice.
Right.
Right? That they can't, and we've done boys a great disservice. We told them that they're not allowed to show emotion, to suck it
Right.
up and be a man if they get hurt. And all we're doing is teaching them to be emotionless and hold everything in. And then you have increased amounts of domestic violence because you have men who are frustrated and upset and have not allowed to show any other emotion except anger.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? So if you have unhealed trauma, then and you would start attacking people who are showing vulnerability and showing
Right.
emotion and showing concern. We're humans.
Right.
We should have emotions, right?
Exactly.
Pretending we don't is there's nothing about being an alpha anything, but being an idiot.
Well, let's talk about now. And I'm going to ask this, and I know ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an argument. I already know it. When I say it, she's going to get, it's going to be an argument.
Don't
But
put words in my mouth till I say them, sir.
whatever. So listen,
Mm-hmm.
why do women look upon it as a weakness? Some women, let's just say some women, look upon that as a weakness when a man is actually vulnerable with them.
Because it's trauma.
If a
I said
man,
earlier that only healed women will understand a healed man.
okay, I didn't hear that, but I agree.
It was like the
But
very first thing I
a
said.
lot of folks don't realize that when you're vulnerable and you're very expressive and you're open with a person, that's a strength. That's really a
Yeah,
strength, and it's really a benefit and a compliment to you. He's telling you or she's telling you, I trust you.
yeah,
I trust you with the things, my inner secrets, my innermost thoughts. I trust you with all this.
yeah. Not everybody
Vulnerable is a
is a
strength.
safe space. Not
Right,
everybody is able to be a space space because not everybody is able to understand their own vulnerability in order to give other people safeness to be vulnerable.
right, right. Look like Slash coming in hot real quick first,
Flash says,
early,
when do
early.
men tell women how to act or react? They never. You're not her daddy. You're her significant other. And I think this is where this whole control thing comes into play, where it's a power play. In a relationship where there's equality and give and take and compromise, there's no power play. There's no
Right.
control because both people are in control.
I could agree with that, but that happened. That happens with the conversation. When you think about it, man, you have to have a conversation, and you
Hmm.
know, neither sex could go in, strong arming like that.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Here's the thing. Too often, people, some men, feel like they need to control everything in the narrative,
Mm,
and when you are controlling people, you're not allowing anybody any safe space for vulnerability.
right, right,
Right? You can't tell people, "Well, I'm a safe space," and then completely act contrary to it. It
right,
doesn't
right,
work
right.
that way.
Not to cut you off, real quick. Anybody who's actually viewing can a slash or any one of them. Can you guys check Instagram for us? See if we're actually still connected to those 23,000 folks over there. I have to close it off on this end for the feedback.
I'm not showing you're live.
Isn't that showing?
It may, no, if you close it, then it's probably not showing.
Let's see.
Probably not.
Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah. Cause I have it up on.
Oh, you do?
Yep, I have it up on my phone, but it's not. It's not showing a live feed right now.
All right. Go ahead. I'll
All right,
work with that. You keep talking.
Yeah.
I got it.
So Kathy says, it is okay to cry. I have sons, and I've shared with them that it's acceptable to embrace vulnerability and transparency. Boys have been told and conditioned not to express those feelings. Yep.
Right.
I will say it again and again and again until the day I die that we do our boys a great disservice. And then we tell our boys not to cry, not to show emotion. And then we end up with men who can't show emotion, and then they wonder why their emotions are cut off. Like, hello, doesn't take a mathematician to figure out 2 + 2 is 4. Right? We need to understand that this whole power play, that I'm an alpha and that I'm in control. No, you're not. If you have to tell people you're not an alpha, you're not in control. Because 9 times 10 people will say, well, they need to allow their man to lead. If you need to allow somebody to do anything, they're not a leader. And having a penis does not make you a leader. It just doesn't. I spent 18 years wearing green. Plenty of men are not leaders. Right? Just like people come out of university thinking they're a manager. No, it doesn't work that way.
I get it. I get
so how is it a woman can tell a man how to express himself? Healed women don't slash. Women who are undergoing trauma do that. Right? This is the problem. People think that the reactions of those, what we have are common reactions, are trauma related, are not what should be happening, even though that is what happened. Because we have so many people who refuse to believe in therapy, who refuse to listen to scientists or doctors. These days, it's prior to medicine, modern medicine, it was called the Dark Ages for a reason. And now we're slowly starting to revert back to that time where we're not reading books, we're not believing doctors, and this whole alpha male thing is ridiculous if you look at the science.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, and I could agree with some of that. But we still have to place that responsibility on both sides of the spectrum here.
At what point did I not place responsibility on both sides? But you are responsible for your own actions. No one else is responsible for your actions.
I agree.
So, if we're going to talk about men, when they're talking about men, they have to be accountable for their actions, which goes back to the conversation we had about the Prince syndrome.
Right.
And this comes right along with it. Where men, like lots of videos on TikTok now are talking about how men have never filled their wife's Christmas stockings, or they wake up shocked by what the Christmas gifts are giving.
Right.
I'm like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Right? If you're a participant and present in your family, you're going to know what your kids' gifts are because you helped get them. You know what the lists were. Right?
I get it. Did you get Kathy's comment?
Yeah, I read Kathy's comment about her son.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do we go from then? We talk about being vulnerable, being expressive, being emotional, and how do you create a safe space for that, male or female?
Communication, and do your own work. Right?
I definitely agree with that.
You can't expect to be a vulnerable space if you don't know what vulnerable spaces are. If you can't be vulnerable with yourself,
right,
then how can you expect to be vulnerable for somebody else?
That's super key, being vulnerable with yourself.
Yeah.
That's super key. That's the key to it all. Starts with self.
Self-awareness is a burden and a load lightener at the same time.
Right.
Like, it will lift the baggage off your shoulders, but at the same time, replace it with other information that may, until you work through it, will weigh you down. Because you have to acknowledge your own nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, we all, and if somebody tells you they don't have nonsense, they're lying to you, because we all got it. We're humans. Right. We're infallible. We're not infallible. We make mistakes.
Slide's coming in hot. 1 sec.
Men are not a monolith. Some men are T.O., Tyrese, or Van Jones. Do you view the women talking about crying grooms? And I posted in the group. I didn't view that. But what's the problem with a groom crying on his wedding day, marrying the love of his life?
Nothing at all. But sometimes, in most cases, let's just be honest and fair, in in most cases, guys are actually ridiculed for that and talked down to and looked upon as a weak
Yeah,
person if they do that.
because we have a toxic society.
There we go.
Yeah, I would trust that man who would cry at his wedding than that other guy who, what's his name, Cody, who's on the latest TikTok sensation, who didn't
Yeah.
write wedding vows and
Right.
basically said all he's gonna do is slap that ass. I'm like, which one respects the woman that he's marrying? Which one has actual
Yeah, there you go.
emotion of the mouth, what that day means?
Right.
So, when somebody ridicules somebody about having emotion, that says a lot more about the person doing the ridiculing than the person being ridiculed.
Right. 1 second. Let me take a pause for the call to acknowledge Instagram one more time. Hey, listen, Instagram followers and supporters, really appreciate it. This is our first time actually streaming live to all you guys. So we're going to have to do a practice run on this probably next week, what have you. But I see you guys there. So it's all good. First time, first run. So good stuff. Head on over to the B2G Unity TV network, or you can go on over to YouTube Live. Really appreciate you guys. Go ahead.
Yeah. You know what? And people would, and there will be men who'll be like, some men who'll be like, oh yeah, well look at them crying, being sissies. I'm like, you know what? When the stuff hits the fan,
Right.
those tough guys aren't as tough anymore.
That's real talk.
You know what I mean?
That's
And
real
I've seen
talk.
it, so don't even try to play me off. And you know what? I would trust somebody who has emotion than somebody who doesn't, because they've seen what happened to soldiers who refuse to show emotion. Those are the ones who come back
One
the
more
most
time for the
broken.
people in the back, because I think that was a very important statement just now.
What's that?
You'll trust a person who's vulnerable over.
I would trust somebody who has emotion over somebody who doesn't. Right?
Right.
And we're human beings. We have emotion. If you're hiding it, there's a reason why. And it's
Right.
never a good reason.
Right.
Right? And I've seen people who show emotion, who don't show emotion, in some situations where being able to share your emotions makes
Right.
a difference in how you can cope with a situation. And those people who put those people down cause more issues than they solve.
It's funny that you would say that. Once I started going shooting these videos of my recovery and my state, different stages within the recovery, I started getting these calls and like, damn, why you being so open like that? Why you being so? Say one, I was told to do that from a higher
Right.
power. Two, that's the strongest person in the room. I'm the strongest person in the room with a limp. Being vulnerable, there's nothing wrong with it. You would not imagine the many friends that contact me and say, why are you doing that? Because it's gonna help someone. For
Yeah.
instance, I'll give you an example. Today, I got a call from a person I hadn't spoken to in about 10, 15 years. He had a leg injury, and he wanted to know, how did I do with my leg injury, and he wanted pointers on to get a speedy recovery. It's like, well, mine was a little different because I couldn't walk, but I talked him through some things and whatnot. You'd be surprised the people that you can help out when you're actually being vulnerable. You'd be very surprised. I wasn't surprised that he reached out, but a lot of people would be like, damn, why are you doing that? Pass this on to someone else.
Yeah.
I
I
had to make
don't know
them
who said
comfortable
it.
enough to contact me to help them out. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know who said it, but somebody had told me when I was flip flopping about this book that your survival story is somebody else's guidebook.
Boom.
Right? And
Boom.
you never, unfortunately, in society, we rarely know who we've mattered to or who we've
Right.
made an impact on. I've been very
Exactly.
lucky in my life that people have contacted me and told me that the impact they've made on their lives. Not everybody gets that. And I think as humans, we need to reach out more to the people who have impacted us so that they understand what they've done for us.
Exactly. Especially in this climate, man. I mean, if a person say in this climate that they're not going through anything, move away from them quick. They're delusional.
Yeah.
If a person said they're not going through something, somebody's going through something. Somebody's having a tumultuous time right now. So these type of conversations, this type of gumbo talk, this type of coaching from you, trauma coaching is needed. It is needed. It opens people up. It opens people up. The more vulnerable you are, the stronger you are.
It is. And here's the problem with vulnerability. Vulnerability forces you to face your deepest, darkest secrets, or your deepest,
That's the scary thing.
and
That's the most scary thing for people facing
mhm.
themselves. I get it.
Oh yeah. I told people, was it 2 weeks ago? I'm still working on my book because there's a section of it that as I write this book, I'm working through it myself, and
Right.
I'm like, damn, D, you did some stupid stuff,
Right.
right? You made some decisions that you probably shouldn't have made, and you have to work through owning that. And
Exactly.
it's not easy when you open up your own self to your own nonsense, and
Mm-hmm.
but that's the good thing about it, because at the end of the book, I'll be good, and I know that this
Boom.
book's going to help other people.
I could totally relate to that because when I was writing the Four Horsemen book, that was a cleansing for me.
Hmm.
I guarantee you. I mean, I just cried throughout the entire book as I was writing that. And I felt so free and relieved after it was done and after it was published and sent it out. And the rewards came on the other opposite side of that. Once it
Yeah,
was published and released, and people telling me how I touched them and I reminded them of certain things in their life and whatnot. But I cried the entire time on that, man.
yeah,
Seriously
and
cried through that book.
yeah. I'm going to get to the slashes comment in a second. I had somebody email me the other day because they want to know when the book's going to be out, and I said I'm still working through it. When I get it done, it's going to be done, and you all know. But
Right.
and she asked me, she's like, "Why are you so straight and no chaser?" I'm like, "Because I used to be a people pleaser, and now the only person I need to please is myself."
That's it.
And it makes a huge difference in how you see the world and how you communicate to the world. At no
Right.
time am I ever rude, or I may be obnoxious, because I will question you and keep questioning you until you come to the truth.
Right.
But it's, you can be honest and open and authentic, and it scares people because they know that you
It may
can see
scare
that they're
them,
not
but it's
being open and
very
honest.
rewarding for you.
Hmm.
It may scare them. They might be afraid of that, but it's very rewarding for the person who's actually giving you their truth.
A lot of people are intimidated by authenticity and honesty.
Exactly.
Like, I was told at work the other day that I have a very dominating personality. I'm like, no, I ask you questions and I expect answers to. That's all. It's
Right.
not dominating.
Right.
All right, so slash is right in a cup. He goes, really, women say that they want a man with emotional intelligence, yet they criticize when and how much a man can cry. Have you experienced in your possession or live heard women that judge men for crying? Yes, I
Right.
worked with lots of women who judge men for crying and asked them why they do that. Because it's not about the man; it's about the person. It's about the woman,
That's real
right?
talk.
And there's usually a father wound or a mother wound that's involved, and there's trauma in how they react to adults.
Let's touch on that couple real quick. Did you read that one? Or
I'm reading it next. I recall
okay,
a married
gotcha.
couple coming on the show. The man expressed that he was going through a rough patch, come home to his queen and broke down. The wife said she thought he was just being soft. Yes. And do you remember what she said afterwards when they talked? And she
What
learned
did she
about his
say?
frustrations. She learned about his frustrations, and they talked about their frustrations. And here's the thing: when you don't have emotional intelligence, you will see other people who are sharing their vulnerability as weak. But you
Right.
don't, because you don't understand that there is a strength in knowing who you are. There is a strength in self-awareness. There's
Right.
no strength in being ignorant of your emotions or ignorant of who you are deep down. Right?
Absolutely.
Where's the
Absolutely.
strength in that?
But
Where's the
I
strength
mean,
in
as
being
far as
frustrated and holding it in?
exactly as for the sisters who actually ridicule brothers, you guys need to dig a little deeper within yourselves and give. Men need a safe space as well, not
Hmm.
just women. Men need a
Yeah,
safe space as well to express themselves and be expressive and to be open.
yeah. It goes both
Because if
ways. We're
he's
human.
open with you, that's a compliment to you.
Yeah, we're human beings. There's a lack of trust that is occurring in society. So people who are not doing the work don't have the trust of the work,
Right.
right? Because remember, we always say trust the process, because the process doesn't look is not pretty,
Not
and
at
it
all.
doesn't look like the outcome will be what the outcome will be because it's messy,
Right.
right? You can't tell somebody curled up in the corner crying their eyes out that everything will be all right in a couple of weeks because they're doing the work, because it doesn't feel like it will be.
Exactly. I got a question for the audience. Do you guys find vulnerability attractive? Male or female? Do you find it attractive?
Wait. Are you able to read comments on Instagram? Because I can't.
No, I can't.
So we'll work on that another time.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I find that the problem nowadays in current society, everybody's so caught up in listening to answer versus listening
Right.
to understand, right? So you'll see that people will have, well, you don't know this, and just completely dismiss the other person's communication or answers to, because they don't want to hear that, because they need confirmation bias that what they're saying is right. And anybody who disagrees with them is just automatically wrong, and then they'll start insulting them.
Right.
Everybody will see that on social media. And there's no two-way communication. And people have lost the ability to understand that other people can have a differing of opinion, and that difference of opinion doesn't necessarily mean they're a hateful person.
Right.
Unless that opinion is one that is detrimental to other human beings.
Right.
Right.
You know, I find vulnerability very attractive. You know, for me personally, that means that the woman trusts me. If she's very vulnerable with me, she trusts me with everything. That's very attractive to me. That makes me want to do better. That makes me want to do more when she's open.
Well, listen, there's so many talking heads out there nowadays that are filling these young men's heads with nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Like I was couldn't sleep the other night, and I was watching TikTok lives, and there's one where this young guy, he was 21, and he said, women are not needed in the world. And I was like, boy, what are you talking about? And he said the only thing women needed are to have children. I'm like, whoa,
These new guys.
You need to have a seat
and
have some grown men talk to you, because that's just nonsense. Right?
Complete nonsense.
And unfortunately, because we have all these Andrew Tate and Peterson, and what was the guy who died in the hotel room, Samuels, all these guys that people listen to, and it's just, they like to talk about things that will make them the most money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and, I get it.
You know, the stuff that makes money is the controversial stuff. You know,
that's gonna be a whole. It's just like this whole beta thing when you talked about beta, right? It's a clickbait, but they knowing us, people who follow us know it's gonna be a totally different situation once they get the combo. You know, the gumbo pot.
Yeah,
they know exactly it's gonna be a totally different situation. Once they get in the gumbo pot, it's a different conversation. We're gonna talk about some trauma. We're gonna talk about some growth. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Slash tireless to get you guys to come in.
Men have to be raised and learn to control their emotions because it can be life or death. A lot of women were raised believing that an emotional man is weak. That's just the truth. Sir, I know you just like to instigate, but there's no life and death in controlling your emotions. There's very few incidences where controlling your emotions is life or death. Coming home from a bad day at work is not life or death to express your frustrations. Let's be serious.
So wouldn't you agree that some women are like that though?
Oh yeah. Because remember, you have people who live in trauma and refuse to acknowledge that trauma.
Right.
Right.
But I would say to that brother, I would say to the brother who's having that trouble with his spouse or his girlfriend or whoever, significant other, whatever it is, you know, have a conversation before shutting down. So if she's shooting you down for being open and vulnerable, have that conversation before you look for the exit door. And if she's a stone, if she's a pillar of stone or whatever you want to call her, she's a brick wall, walk away from her.
Yeah.
Simple as that. But always have that conversation before you shut yourself down, and you're not going to be open. And as long as you cage that stuff in, you're just creating a ball pot. that thing's going to boil over at some point.
Yeah.
So express yourself to her. If she's not open to it, then she gives you the right of way. Walk away from her.
Yeah, these are conversations you should be having at the beginning,
Yeah, exactly. We
right? And
talked about this on previous podcasts. I don't know if it was the Disney princess thing. I mean, you had that conversation from the onstart. You won't have those issues.
yeah,
But if you go in and you jumping into it, right after the sweat dry, nothing's gonna get done in that.
there is something we should
Slavery
have a
from the
talk about.
start.
What they should talk about before they get heavily involved in a relationship. There's a conversation to have.
Yeah, absolutely right.
What's Slash say? Not everyone is emotionally well-rounded and has done the work. Brothers know that they can't find overstanding and a soft place to land, knowing unconditional love and being able to be poured into. Well,
And
sir,
I
if you can find it if you look.
exactly. I could agree with him on that. But here's the thing, though. But if a brother can't find that, he's looking in the wrong places.
Yeah,
I bumped into a few knuckleheads as far as women who are brick walls when it comes down to emotional intelligence.
yeah,
And I walk away from them. I move away from them. I move away from them. You have the right of way. If that woman cannot comprehend emotional intelligence, leave her alone.
yeah.
Walk away from her.
All you have to do is ask her, what does she think of men who cry?
There you go.
One question
Yeah,
that will, the second date, ask that question and you're done. Okay? If
exactly.
somebody is,
Yeah,
if
I would
somebody,
say, my response to that would be, brothers, you're in the wrong pool. You're in the wrong pool. And I've seen a ton of brothers who hit that brick wall with these women. They're in the wrong pool. They're in the wrong pool.
well, too often they're too busy looking at the shallow pool and the
Ooh, one more time. Gonna need to hear that.
they're too often looking in the shallow pool and
Good
looking
stuff.
at the looks
That's some good
and not
stuff right
beyond
there.
what that is. Okay?
Martine says, "Hey,
Martine
my
says,
favorite
I got
departed."
interrupted missing the show. We recorded, so luckily you'll be able there.
What's she say now?
She
Oh,
said,
she
I got
had.
interrupted, darn it, missing the show. That's
Oh,
okay,
it's
it's
all
recorded.
good. You
You
can
can always
always
go
catch
back.
the playback.
Yeah. Slash
Slash
says, being
says,
stopped repeatedly for driving while black, where a brother is sick and tired of being sick and tired, not choosing to reserve, being in control can lead to a Sandra Bland assassination. So yes. Okay, that's a whole different situation. We're talking about going home to your
now,
wife, your girlfriend.
now, but in a black man's shoes, I can admit to that. In a black man's shoes is extremely tough. Getting home, you get stopped by the cops. It's
Okay,
happened to me 1,000 times.
I've
But
had
here's
that
the
in
thing,
my head.
right? But here's the thing, though. This is where you do the work on yourself. This is where brothers need to look inward and deal with themselves first, to where they could actually get stopped by the cops, get that pat down and unlawful stop and whatnot, and head home to the wife.
Yeah.
And she should have, you guys together have created a soft place to land within that home.
Well, you know how we slow down that police brutality thing. We all get life insurance policies because you know what life insurance policies do? They have to pay out money when people are killed. And you know what
Boom.
life insurance companies don't like to do? Pay
Pay
out
up
money.
money.
You got to
The
pay
education on the conversation show is phenomenal.
you got to play the game, man. The way they play it. You know?
Absolutely.
We all
You
get
you said
we all
something.
get pulled over.
You said something to Slash on the latter part of the Prince syndrome. You talked about why black men are not emotional, and give people the history on that. We talk about it all the time,
We're
but
going
give them
back
the
to
history
slavery.
on why black men are afraid to be vulnerable, why they won't cry, why they're not expressive. What's the history on that? Give them the history on that.
So let's go back to why. So here's some things about black emotions. So a lot of people joke around about how we jump and move around when we start laughing. That goes back to slavery days when you weren't allowed to laugh in front of the slave master. This whole keeping children in a quiet place, that goes back to keeping ourselves alive. All of this
Right.
lack of emotion is about keeping alive. It's about
Exactly.
staying alive. The problem is now it's 2023 and we have to learn how to thrive. And we need to push back against these generational traumas that we've been forced upon us for generation after generation. And a lot
I
of people
need
don't
people.
realize slavery is not that far away. We're talking
Exactly.
3 generations in many families.
And I need people as a whole. I'm talking about male and female, black people. You guys need to understand that, just like she said, slavery is not too far from us.
Yeah.
The remnants of that are still there. I see it every day on social media, and they have no idea that that's remnants from slavery, being in captive, being in captive people,
Yeah.
their attitudes, the way they act, everything. The remnants are still there, man. The residue is still there. You just have to know how to get out of that and walk yourself out of that.
Just and the stupid, simple stuff like walking down the sidewalk. White people will actually walk into me because they expect me to move out of the way. And I
Exactly.
I will make eye contact and you walk straight down the sidewalk and not move. I have had women change from the line they're on where they would not walk into me to move over in front of me to try to get me to move. Yeah,
Slash
just
coming in hot.
stupid stuff.
I knew it was too good to be true. He coming in hot on you. Coming in hot.
I didn't specifically express going home to loved ones. Tyrone tired of all the BS at work, getting accused of scaring his good white coworkers, then security's being called for the angry black guy. Sir, you're talking to a black woman. You don't think I get called angry all the time. I literally raise my voice and I'm angry. I walk into a room and I'm angry. Right?
Right.
We're
But I mean,
talking about specifically when you're home with your loved ones.
let's keep it a buck here. Let's keep it a buck here. We're talking among family. We're talking among family. We're
Yeah.
talking among family here. We know damn well how to communicate with one another as far as if I'm raising my voice, you're gonna know if I'm angry or if I'm not.
Yeah.
We just a very expressive people. We really
Mhm.
are. We
Yeah.
really are. We really know one another. But the thing is, do you really want to get to know a person?
Yeah.
That's the issue right there. Should I back that up and say it again? You
Listen,
know what I'm saying? Like,
I
we know
I
one another already.
I love us because I can sit in a crowded room with another black woman and we can make eye contact and have an entire
And not say a
conversation,
word and not say one word.
not say a thing. You know what I mean?
I give you another example. Like for Slash, I've been knowing Slash for about over 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Slash could send a comment or send a text, an emoji, or anything. I know exactly what he's saying to me without even him saying anything.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked for you two to translate so many times. But, and Martine says so many people are on some of the craziest shit. I hardly listen to influencers/podcasts. It's draining to hear the same discussions and no solutions offered or suggested. Listen,
Boom.
I went into a podcast the other night because I have trouble sleeping, right? So I went to
Right.
this podcast the other night, and my name on TikTok is Coach D, right?
Right.
Doesn't take a brain scientist to figure out I'm a coach of some type, right? So this guy was talking all kinds of nonsense about parenting, and I'm like, who hurt you when you were young?
Right.
And my God, you would have thought I called him out of his name.
He flipped
And
out.
I knew exactly as soon as his reaction to that question told me that he was living in trauma and there's nothing I could have done at that moment because he needs therapy
Right.
to get through to where
You
he
know
needs
what
to be.
though? I'm so happy that TikTok has actually extended their videos.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna uploading more footage from us instead of 20-second clips like we're restrained to promoting it on Facebook or Instagram. It got to be within 90 seconds.
Yeah,
But
it's like
TikTok has actually opened it up.
I have like 10 minutes now, I think.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they can get, you get more content out and they get more help. The people will get
Yeah.
more help than those 20-second clips, 30-second clips, 90-second clips. You can't get nothing out of that.
No, it's true. Martine says it doesn't mean a man's soft or simple of any sort of way. I want the man in my life to be able to let the tears flow. It's healing. It
That's right.
cleanses the soul,
It really does.
right? And a lot of people don't realize how therapeutic just a good cry is.
Exactly.
Like just letting that emotion out and letting that primal tears flood. Right? It's something we all need to do.
Right. And for my brothers, and I was really, to be honest with you, when I thought back and I started looking, I was checking out the previous podcast that we did last week. I was really happy that you brought that up because we need to talk to brothers and let them know that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
be expressive. It's okay to be open You know what I'm saying? Be open, and it's okay for you to be that soft place to land. It's okay for her to be that soft place for you to land. It's
We
okay.
need listen. We need more communication and less bullets in our community. I don't care what anybody says.
That's real talk. That's real talk.
You know what I mean?
That's real
Like
talk.
people like, oh, gee, you don't want people soft. Like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of people fighting and shooting each other over a stupid beef.
Exactly. Man,
Right?
vulnerability is a very beautiful thing,
Yeah.
especially when you have two people who come together as one romantically. Vulnerability is very beautiful.
Yeah. Slash
Right.
says, I'm reading lately there's so often life and death for brothers in a system of white supremacy, so we have to have our emotions in check. Let's not forget this is Joe Budden. This is the Joe Budden Drake music era. But we're not talking about white supremacy, sir. We're talking about in our homes with our loved ones.
And this is where we get it construed, misconstrued, and
Yeah.
what have you. When we talk about, that's why we bring the drama within the home. All
Yeah.
the outside forces. We have to learn how to, you know, move away from that. We have to learn how to shut that off. That's when you do the work within. When you're able to actually fight the world and come home, and everything is, you go to your solace place.
You,
It's a beautiful thing when you could do that.
and here's the thing: we need to talk about what happens, right? If you're frustrated, there's emotion involved with what happens when those things occur, and you need to
Right.
have somebody to talk to about it, to
Absolutely.
release that energy. That's you know, what I mean? I've been pulled over by the cops and white knuckled my steering wheel.
Right.
I driving my brand new car home. I was terrified because I had to drive through an area of Baltimore known where the police are known to be running guns.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not the gangs, it's the cops, right? So I
But
know that all the
I believe in taking personal responsibility, and women as well, man. You have to be open to your man being vulnerable to you. You have
right,
to. That's the only way you're gonna get a good man.
yeah,
You allow that man to be expressive. You allow that man to be who he is, who he truly is. That's the only way you're
yeah,
gonna get a good man.
yeah,
Allow him to be
because
expressive without feeling ashamed.
men who are able to express their frustration or their fears or their sadness don't go around punching holes in walls
Boom.
or punching
One more
women.
time. One more time.
Men who are able to express their fears, emotions, frustration, sadness don't hit because
There
they
you
have
go.
an outlet of communication,
There you
right?
go. There you
The
go.
biggest,
Again, and I'll
and
say this throughout the program until we close. It's okay for a woman to give a man a soft place to land.
mhm.
That's the most safest place in the world on the planet. When a woman give a man a soft place to land, he's gonna work his ass off for that family. He's gonna
Yeah.
work his ass off for that woman because
It
she's
comes back
allowed
to
that,
the,
and she's built the landing strip for a soft place to land.
and that's not a control thing. That's a
No, it's not.
vulnerability thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. Because I take a woman who creates a home for a soft place to land any day over a woman, a nagging woman, any day over a woman who's making it about her. When she
Yeah.
creates that soft place to land in within her home, you guys can build together.
And Martine says, being the president of emotionally mature people is a real blessing. Far too many men have been taught that it's not a thing for men to cry. Many men won't hug their sons because they feel it's for the weak. Yep.
Real talk.
I tell you, we've done a great disservice to when we raised our children for
It's real.
generations, right?
And you're
And now
definitely
we're
consistent with that, coach. You're definitely consistent with that because you talk about that every single time about how we do a disservice to our kids. You
yeah,
can very consistent with that.
yeah. Slash Gen X was raised in the strong silent types is another gen of expression, thinking, and learning methods. There's no separation of home or work because of the neighborhood and homeowners association. Listen, I'm a Gen X. Gen X weren't raised. We were not raised. There was commercials on TV asking our parents where their kids were.
Right.
Gen X is the most neglected generation because parents didn't take any caring time. They didn't raise them. acting like Gen X are they strong type. We're the most traumatic group out there.
Some of us,
You're
some
gonna
of
make
us
me
are.
curse.
Some of us are. Some of us are.
Yeah. Martine, exactly, Coach G. I watched the film Chevalier and saw how he had been the only black person for years and couldn't truly fully record himself. Yeah. It's we as a group have overcome some of the most horrific things in our family
Exactly.
histories.
If
Right?
there's any group, and I'm going to say it, I'll probably get in a little trouble with this, but
Oh yeah, you will.
let's go on our platform. I'm going to say it. But if there's any group that have overcame the most trauma, any group, I don't care who it is, any group, it has to be the black people. It has to be the black people. We've overcame so much. I know these other groups like to talk about and like to bring up, but
Yeah, but see, the thing is, we're told to remember for everybody else and for us to move along when we talk about
boom,
us, right?
boom.
Because
Exactly.
they don't want to. People do not want to acknowledge what has been done. My family, the last couple of generations of families of mine were breeder slaves. Think about that. They were cattle to breed so they could make more money off more slaves because bringing in slaves was illegal.
Coming at your Slash, we're going to get Martine, then we're going to bring you in.
Okay. So Martine says it's become a go-to for folks to call black women angry or bitter. Yeah, we're always angry or bitter.
That's true.
Slash
up next.
Slash says, Mr. Epic and I were not raised in the softer side of seers of emotions. There you go again. You have no clue of how folks were raised or not in the macro. Sir, I've studied how kids have been raised. So, yes, I do know how people were raised in the macro and the micro, because we can talk about how they're raised in different regions of the country, how they're raised in Canada versus North America.
Hold on.
So,
go ahead.
And Martin sees that the videos are longer now. Yeah, so here's the thing. A lot of people like to downplay the experience and education of black women by telling us we don't know things. When everything it's obvious that we are very aware of what is going on.
Right.
So, sir, that is white supremacy on its own when you say I don't know something.
But when we talk about that, I have to agree with Slash on part of that comment. I was raised. Again, I think I spoke on this before. Big Will, my father, he was, strong and very hands-on, but he also showed a softer side of things. He was a balance. And I always tell guys all the time, man, you have to, walk that tightrope when you're doing that. Show some love, be softer, and you got to be stern as well. Because if you're not, they're going to take advantage of it. Kids will take advantage of that. But you have to be, soft and stern at the same time. There's a balance. There's a fine line that we have to walk when we're dealing with kids like that. That's the way my father dealt with me. It's a fine line. Yeah. So I never had a problem with expressing myself. I never had a problem with, being open and expressive. I was given the room to be expressive.
Yeah. I'm going to ignore Slash's comment because now he's just getting rude and I'm not playing that game.
What you got?
So here's the thing. We often try to pretend that we know how the trauma affects others when we're uneducated on trauma. Trauma looks very different in different circumstances, right? And when we're talking about parents raising their kids, a lot of parents don't understand child development and haven't studied child development, and then want their 4-year-old to act like an adult and give adult responses, but they're 4. Okay? There's a lot of adultification of children, and then we go, well, I survived, I'm good. I'm like, no, you're not good.
When we talk about trauma, I'll be a little transparent here tonight. We talk about trauma like my brothers, the 4 of us. We experienced the same thing, but each of us dealt with that trauma totally different.
Yeah.
Each of us dealt with the trauma totally different. So when we talk about trauma, and I'm speaking from experience,
Yeah.
that the four of us, it was completely different.
Yeah.
We looked at it, we saw it, we was in the same space.
Oh yeah.
The way I viewed it, my other three brothers didn't view it the same way.
Oh yeah. Because we're all different people.
Exactly.
Like I look at one of my sisters and wonder if we grew up in the same house.
Exactly.
When I know her
I think
bedroom was right
all the
next door to mine. Yeah.
I think the same way all the time. So,
Yeah.
that's what we're all different, man. All the way down to the particles of hair on our head.
Yeah.
We're different.
But as different as we are, we have to listen to the people who have studied it.
Right? I agree.
If people have spent a decade learning and listening and talking to people, then maybe you should listen to them. If you are so stuck in your being right, then they're just going to stop talking to you because you're not ready to hear it.
I agree.
I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince people. Martine says, I want to see if we do well from friendships or love unions and with our families. And she said, your home should be a safe space. Yes.
It should be. Definitely should be.
It should be a space of peace.
I think you missed this comment. What was Slash saying? I didn't see that one.
Slash said, there are 4 billion people on this earth. Ain't no way you can speak for the masses. Please exit your bubble. I have a degree in it, sir. So I know that he likes to instigate, but I'm not gonna put up with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I knew it was too good to be true. These two were gonna bump heads at some point.
Because he's being rude. At no time was I being rude. I don't tell him that he doesn't know what he's talking about. So
I knew it was too good to be true, ladies and gentlemen.
That men do to us. So I'm gonna push back because I'm not gonna put up with it. Right? You want to communicate? We can communicate. I will tell you my frustration and anger at what you just said.
Ladies and gentlemen, I play referee when it comes down to Coach D and Slash for,
Listen,
go ahead now.
It's come to the point there are times when Slash has said something, I'm like, you know what? I'm wasting my time having this conversation. I shouldn't even be bothering here. And if I didn't have better manners, I would have closed my computer and walked away.
No, we can't do that. Not to all these people that come in to see you.
You know what? I can't, but they should also understand that is not acceptable behavior.
I got
you. There's a difference between instigating and pushing bummies and just being downright rude and insulting. Right? Martine says, I'm way open to my man friends being vulnerable. The most healthy thing to be able to do is be able to breathe easily. Yes.
Absolutely.
Right? And she says, because we all experience and relate to it differently, and we're not a monolith. It's never just one way. No. You can be in a room and see the exact same thing. 20 people can see the exact same thing and see completely different things.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Because we all see things through our point of view.
Exactly.
Through our perspective.
I used to tell my brothers, once I did the memoir for us, I used to tell my brothers, when they read the book and when it caused a whole bunch of, it opened up a whole bunch of wounds. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, I can't believe you. I say, I saw it. This is the way I saw it. This is the way I witnessed it. Yeah, we were in the same space. This is what I witnessed. Now, what you witnessed, hey, you got to talk about it. You write a book about that. But this is the way I saw it. Mm-hmm. This is the way it was presented to me personally.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
A lot of people aren't willing to see that two people can be in the exact same spot and have different experiences.
Yeah.
It's hard to see a different perspective when you're still caught up in your own perspective. I used to have a conversation.
I used to have that same conversation with my brother Greg, who's passed on. We'd have the same conversation because we shared the same bedroom. His bed was on one end of the room, mine was on the other. And we would literally have conversation as grown men about this. It was like, damn, you know what? You were right. Mm-hmm. You were right. That was happening like that. But because he was being showered with gifts and cards and stuff like that, I was younger than him, but I could see all this stuff. I'm like, buying all this shit for him so he could forget.
Yeah.
As a young kid, I was saying it to myself. They buying cars and all this shit for him and so he can forget. So he's a teenager driving a Lincoln. We talking about in the 80s. So of course he's a teenager driving to school. He's forgetting that. So as a man, as an adult, when I talk to him, he's like, you know what, bro? You're absolutely right. I was blinded by the things that was given to me.
Mhm.
You know, but I mean, like I said, kids taking things differently.
Yeah. What we see and process at 8 is gonna be very different when we think back at it at 40,
Boom,
right?
boom.
Like, and I was home recently, and it's very difficult to see your parents in a different light once you've done
Exactly,
the work, right?
exactly.
It's very
Slash comes.
difficult.
He's coming in hot with this one. Let's see what's going on.
My primary care physician can't perform brain surgery just because he's a doctor, nor can he cure baldness because he runs in his family. Yeah, sir, I am a trauma coach talking about trauma. Stay with the program, please, or I'll just ignore you from now on, and Trent can read your comments because I'll pretend you don't exist. Because that's my toxic trait. I can just ignore you. Uh, that's my
You know,
baggage.
man.
Martin says to express himself. Woo, Mark. Yeah. So it is what it is. I talk about trauma
Right.
because that's what I do. Right.
Honestly, I think that trauma is very important to talk about because, for one, when we talk about trauma, it helps the individual face themselves.
Yeah.
It helps that. That's why I love trauma so much. Where, even with my traumatic experience, I was a kid. Once I wrote that book, I was able to face myself completely. It was so refreshing and so rewarding. Once you face yourself, man, and stop running from yourself. This is why I love trauma talk.
Yeah.
This is why we call it gumbo talk here, because we throwing everything in a pot, we stirring it up. We're gonna stir it up. So yes, Mark Slash might not agree with Coach D, and Coach D might not agree with Slash, but at the end of the day, we're trying to get to the same point.
Yeah. But I'm definitely not going to stop talking about trauma and exit my bubble. So whatever. Martine says, "Yeah, you'll have dudes trying to argue with you using quotes from influencers and movies." Yeah. Listen,
Absolutely.
I've gotten to conversations in TikTok lives with other people that I'm invited on that I
Right.
seriously question um, how hurt some of these people are, and some of the
Right.
things that, like, I had a man tell me, "Well, my parents beat me and I'm okay. I don't mind spanking my kids." I'm like, "Sir, we are talking about a 6 month old. Why are you
Right.
spanking a 6 month old?"
Right.
Right? Child development. No child development law is going to tell you that spanking a 6 year old is going to be productive.
Exactly.
Right? There's
So once we can actually, man, once we can get past the trauma and we could open up to being vulnerable and open up to being having vulnerability.
Mhm.
It's a normal thing. We'll be great as people. Period. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Once we accept it and we open up to it, and that's on both sides of the spectrum, male and female. Once we open
yeah,
up to it and you open up to yourself, you do. You be good for the greater good of people. Period.
yeah. But here's the thing: when you work through the trauma, you make a better person and a better manager and a better leader because you can see the effects that different things happen on other people.
That's real talk. That's
Right?
real talk. That's real
And
talk.
a lot of people aren't ready for that because with being aware comes responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Man, the hour went by so quick. What's your teachable moment here, Coach? It's one to the hour.
My teachable moment is always be your true, authentic self. Do the work and understand that not everybody's going to appreciate the work that you've done, and it is normal to walk away from people who are not um, healthy,
And my teachable moment is for
not
the
emotionally
brothers.
healthy.
My teachable moment is for the brothers and the sisters. The sisters, be that soft place to land for that man as well.
Mhm.
You get yourself a good man. For the brothers, be vulnerable enough to be that soft place to land. Again, be vulnerable enough to be that soft place to land. Be vulnerable enough to land in her soft place.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Oh, before I close off, hey, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll get that Instagram thing straightened out, but it was the first time we connected to Instagram and we was allowed access to those 23,000 folks over there. We'll make it right. We'll get it right. But for the folks on the base style side, as far as that vintage album. Don't be afraid. Vaystyle94.com is actually vintage in several countries, and we really appreciate that. It's actually it's been remastered. It's remastered for digital for the digital standards of today. So that'll be out Christmas Day, the single All I Need. Check out Vaystyle94.com, all the updates on the releases. We appreciate all that good stuff. Obviously, I can't go out and travel and do the road thing, but you guys can get it on digital over there in Japan. And I'm talking to the Japan folks right now, over France and Germany, all that good stuff. So really appreciate the support on both sides with the record and the conversation here. So we really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot to us.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. Have a great week. For those who celebrate, it's not too long to Christmas. Start getting those gifts together. Make sure you fill your wife's Christmas stocking, gentlemen.
There you go. We're gonna close out with a couple of comments, then we'll close out.
Seriously? Slash, I believe kids shows eat at the kids' table. Every conversation is for children. Kids should relate to other kids. There's level to different things. First graders aren't taught astrophysics. Sir, you kids know a lot more than you want to let on about. So, Martine says, Goofy, stop being silly, please. Don't waste your energy. And Slash says, thanks for some truth. Queen Kebi, women have long shamed boys and men. Yeah, we had a whole discussion about it.
That's true. You're absolutely right. Women have done that. So, but I will say, some women, not all women, some women, and most women, women that do that, men and women who do that, they haven't done the work.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I gotta go because I gotta get little man ready for school. So.
Until next week, appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning into the B2G Unity TV Network. Coach D and I will see you on the other side of Sunday.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
You guys be epic.
Bye.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedie Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.